economic development in the areas that are purple, and residential is yellow, parks are green, but it's a very complex design for building the neighborhoods of Central Park. And I'd love later to have the people who live in Central Parks sort of chime in then too, because it's been an amazing development. And this shows the residential. They projected parks for 1,100 acres. Didn't quite make that because parks and schools were the biggest priorities for the community. And so parks yielded to some schools sooner than anticipated. So they invited me in 2003 to do write the public art master plan, which is on the website, and the contact information that is at the end of the PowerPoint. And so I interviewed a lot of people, all involved with the development: neighbors, landscape architects, the people who were in the governing part of Park Creek development, which is the master planner and the legislative special district for the bond funds that started this. And this is the very lofty goal, and I won't belabor it, but to say public art development at Central Park had two very interesting and challenging facets. One is that it's mostly residential, and that means it's 24/7 public art. You can't leave it. If you purchase a home adjacent to that public art, it's there all the time. If you don't love it, it's there all the time in a residential section. So we were working very hard to make sure that the community was involved in the selection process. And the other issue was that the development was going to take at least 15 to 20 years. And the money would not immediately be available, nor were various sites available right at the beginning. We didn't know how long it would take for the sites to be available, or which sites would in fact be available for public art as the development moved forward. So the public art plan was approved by Denver Urban Renewal Authority in 2005. And we dedicated the first artwork in 2000, in winter of 2006. And so that we used the basic public art process that most programs use. And my minders wanted to be sure that I had a public art advisory committee, making sure that I didn't get into any difficulty. And that was a public art advisory committee. And so they were the committee that would identify the sites and budget and review the selections, and then they would make recommendations for approval and for the money to be released. The art selection panels were really, really an interesting group. I would like to say that there was definitely a representative on each public art selection committee from the larger oversight committee, and Ann Daly was on a number of the committees, and so was Gwen Chancet followed Anne, because we've had an association in that way with the Denver Art Museum throughout this project. And this is what the art selection process followed. And what it was a 3-meeting project, if you will. First of all, we would identify the site and convene the committee and design the request for qualifications to put on a website that was designed by Western States Arts Federation for this process. And artists who were interested could, at no cost to them, put a portfolio of 100 images on the site, and then check the site, the cafe site, regularly to see if there were any projects that appealed to them. And then they would take relevant images from their portfolio, post them online, and then be reviewed online. So the panels would design the requests for qualification that had this information on it. And then we would pre-screen the applications and the images in the comfort of our own home. And then the second meeting of the panel was to look at the images and come up with a group, 3 or 4 artists whose work they really would like to see. And then we sent these proposal guidelines to the applicants, to the finalist applicants, talking about these issues. And it's been very important to provide the artists with significant amounts of information about this part of the world. Our rapid temperature changes, our lack of humidity, and the general climate that we live in is so different from most of the rest of the country that the artists coming from either coast would be quite surprised at the issues confronting exterior public installation of exterior public art in this particular climate. So that's why we would send them this information, so that they would have a real understanding of it. And we would pay for them to come out to Denver and meet with the selection committee, tour the site, so that they were perfectly clear about what they were working on and how they were going to make it a successful project. And we gave them a sample project budget. I know you will understand that the design fee is not the sum total of the commission, or vice versa, but it runs from about 10 to 20% of the entire budget of the commission. And here is the first one of 3 projects that Park Creek Metro District commissioned and installed on their own before I entered the scene. This is the West Crescent Fountain, now called Founders Fountain, by Andy Dufford and let's see, and Christian Mueller from Denver. And this is this is on East 29th Avenue in the central part of Central Park, in this town center, the first town center. And if any of you who live in Central Park have lived there for a while, you will remember that this was a great place for toddlers in diapers wandering around and paddling around in the water. So, but it is the mountains and then the water, and there are little design features in the concrete showing water and how it travels into this part of the world.
Mhm.
The second piece was done by Andy Dufford also, and this is called geodes, and they're limestone, if you will, replicas of geodes. And this is on Central Park Boulevard at 25th and 26th Avenue. And this is the third piece that was installed before I got involved. And these are westerly sky towers that were designed by the landscape architect who was employed at the time for the first part of the Stapleton development. And so then we go to, this is the first piece that was installed at Central Park. And this is by Elon Averbach out of New York. And it's called The Eye and the Horizon. He was particularly taken by the amount of horizon available in Denver, which is contrary to what he sees in New York. And this is The Eye and the Horizon after Monet. So it's his use of the Monet image of the pond and the reflection of a bridge, the bridge in the pond of Giverny. And he did not know this at the time, but as I mentioned earlier, the two priorities for this community were education and parks. And so looking here through the eye, in the background is Westerly Creek Elementary School. And if you're standing on the other side of the sculpture and look to the north, you see Central Park. So it unifies those two priorities in its own special way. And this piece is called Chorus, and it was, imagine Stapleton International Airport runways. This was a runway, and Westerly Creek was under all the concrete and asphalt. And so it was opened, and this large park was made into a wildlife preserve, small wildlife, coyotes and prairie dogs, etc. But these are sculptures by Thomas Sayer from Raleigh, North Carolina. And he was one of quite a number of artists who applied for this commission. It was a $155 commission at the time. And while the other applicants had proposed sculptures of bunnies, etc., because it's a wildlife area, he proposed these pieces as a beauty mark to call attention to the space. And this is Chorus. There are 19 of these large vessels, and they are in different configurations. And he made these with North Carolina red clay, not available here, certainly. And they're made with Big Jim tree spades to dig a deep hole as if for a large tree, and then rebars inside, and then pour red clay colored concrete into them. And then you take them out of the mold, and this is the result. and these are pretty large, I think you can tell. And he originally had 11 that he was proposing, but he had had eight in a gallery show in North Carolina. And he said, well, I'll throw those in too. So there are 19 of them between Beeler and Clinton Street. And these are the different sites, and you can see the different configuration of them. And he called it chorus because they look like open mouths talking to each other or not talking to each other in the way they are placed in each particular location. And they're pretty sturdy. You see in the background the house and the three chorus sculptures in the flood, in the 500-year flood that we had in 2011 and the second 500-year flood that we had in 2013. And this is Westerly Creek, and the sculptures survived. Thank you very much. 2 floods, not just one.
Huh.
And the next project is the recreation center. And this was done in collaboration with Arts and Venues Denver. And this is a large glass frame. This is in the recreation center in Central Park. And it has the balloon, it's called thought balloons. And they pop up, and it's hideously difficult to photograph. So this is the best photograph I have of it, and I've tried a lot of different ones. But there's a website that will take these, take ideas that are family friendly and put them up so that it's motion activated. And so these pop up randomly, and there's a whole series of quotes that play against each other and talk back and forth on this. And that's the entrance to the recreation center. And that was the day it was dedicated. And this is the other piece in the recreation center. This is, if you will, a chandelier, but it has multiple colors, and it responds to the motion that is created in the recreation center by people going down the stairs and working out and on the exercise machines. And it's called Staplefield. And both of them have led me to the conclusion not to do tech public art if I can help it, because the maintenance and the number of difficult issues to solve with it going forward and the rapid changes in technology make it a very tricky kind of public art to commission. And this is another piece in a neighborhood. This is in a twin to the Eye and the Horizon median. And this is a quieter neighborhood on East 35th. And by the time this was installed, we were very clear about the population explosion in Central Park. And we decided to have a project that looked very much, that would be very child friendly and be appropriate to a small residential area. And this piece is a takeoff, if you will, of Le Déjeuner sur l'herbe by Manet. And so we have the elegant dog in the foreground with others surrounding and the picnic laid out for them. And there's a wine bottle in the basket and so forth. And it's really loved by the many children in that neighborhood because they take the squeegee or the little fine gravel from the paths and they contribute it to the picnic basket and the dog's nostrils and so forth. So it's well loved, but that turns out to be something of a maintenance issue. And this is a piece, one of the things that the Public Art Advisory Committee did want in choosing artists for Central Park was to have a piece by Jim Green because of the popularity of the piece that he has on Curtis Street downtown. And in the pieces in the restrooms in the Ponte building. And so he envisioned talking parking meters. And there are 3 of these now, and they have, one of them has a greeting sound menu saying, hello, how are you? My, you look great today. And that's at the entry to the East Bridge Plaza shopping area. Another one is on the east side of that where there's a stroller parking area and its sound menu is animal noises. And there's a third one on the north side that has transportation noises. So it's motion activated and you can hear those particular noises and it is not coin operated. But they're standard parking meters in other respects. And this is a piece called Open House. And this is the piece that the construction people and the builders at Park Creek Metropolitan District or Forest City just loved. It's Cortan. But it said, oh, that's what we do. And Central Park has been building out, and you see the framework of houses throughout the entire development and have for 20 plus years. And so they resonated quite a lot to this particular piece, which is in a small park adjacent to multifamily dwellings. And this piece has, on the left, has a stone table and two stools. And the tables is incised with a checkerboard pattern. So you can play checkers or play chess or whatever. But this is Open House. This is by an artist from Paonia, Colorado, whose name is Ty Gillespie, and he was sort of a surprise coming into this competition for this particular project. But this was a resounding favorite. This is a piece in, let's see, at 23rd and Spruce, and the community wanted to have the artwork in a community garden. And this is a piece by Lars Stanley, Weathered Steel. And there is a series of bouquets, if you will, of weathered steel images of, on the left is jalapeno, and then some is corn. And so they're images of flowers and vegetables. And some of the bouquets are of garden instruments. And so that's how they wanted to recognize this contemporary garden. This is a piece on South Central Park Boulevard by Eric Johnson, who's from Fort Collins. We obviously don't have all Colorado artists, but we have a good representation of Colorado artists. And Eric was taken by the blowing of grasses, native grasses, and by the swirls that the wind makes in in the open areas of Denver. And so these are the wind swirls, and then you have the grasses that presumably would wave in the wind. This is an example, I think, of over proposing, because the budget didn't permit strong enough shock absorbers and mechanism here to allow those elements to wave quite as we expected, but they do wave. And this is the second piece that was installed in Central Park up in the Northfield Shops area. And these are airfoils. They are horizontal tail stabilizers from 737 airplanes. And that was the most common type of airplane flown in and out of Stapleton International Airport. And they have solar cells at the top so that the screen along the outer edge will glow in the evening. There are only 3 because it turned out that the space that was going to be available to them for this site was not going to be big enough to house 4. And so we, Park Creek donated one to DSST for their entryway. There have been a succession of owners of the shops at Northfield, and the current owners had decided that they wanted to build a skating rink here. And so they would have to move the airfoils, and they didn't have a place for them, thank goodness. And so one of the issues about Central Park is it is so designed, so intensely designed, that there isn't a lot of space to move a sculpture to, if that's necessary, as it was with these. So these were installed in 2006, and they are now over in the new Navigator Park. We had to search throughout the entire Central Park area for an, if you will, unclaimed or undesigned area for the 3 airfoils. And so they have been installed, and this is East 47th, just off Northfield Boulevard. And it hasn't been landscaped yet. This is a recent photograph. So they will have more room to breathe, if you will, in a new park that will be ready by summertime. Mm-hmm. And the artist is Patrick Merrill, whose work is in and around Denver in the zoo, and it's at DIA as well. And this was his first public art piece. And he grew up in Wheat Ridge and now lives in Nederland. But he's very glad to have this more congenial site for his artwork. And here's the piece in front of the School of Denver Science and Technology. And this is the Montview High School entranceway. And it was designed, it was reconfigured for that particular space. And it's on permanent loan from Park Creek Metropolitan District. And the school is responsible for its maintenance. It's not needed any maintenance until now. It has a few dings in it, so we're working with the school to get that done. And moving back to North Central Park, This is called Phantom Pavilion, and it's a piece by Vulcan Alkanoglu. And it's sitting in a promontory above a huge stormwater basin. Westerly Creek, where I showed you the flood, is stormwater management. This is another area for stormwater management. This is high. It will never be flooded as the porous sculptures were, but it overlooks a very large basin. And it was the first piece that we had that was entirely computer designed. So it is a tricky piece, and is the only shade structure in this very large area at Trenton Street and Stoll Place in North Central Park. And here is, if you will, it's one of two bookends. That is at Trenton Street, and this is at Willow Street at the end of a linear park. And this piece belongs to the city and county of Denver, and I worked with Denver on it. This was not funded by Park Creek Metropolitan District. This was funded by the bond issue that built the overpass over the Central Park Boulevard overpass over I-70. And it is, if you will, a nautilus shape inside. You can see the entry on the left, and you enter and you can see a child inside. And so the lower wooden pieces are pretty close together to, if you will, inhibit climbing. And you see they're a little wider at top, but it is sprinkled with dichroic glass. And you see that in the sunset. And it's a gorgeous piece in the winter when that glass, if there's snow on the ground, when that glass is on the snow, shows the color, throws the color to the snow. Mm-hmm. And it is made of Ocoya wood. Everybody, or the committees, were concerned about the material, about it being wood, which doesn't have that long a lifespan. But it's Ocoya wood, which is presumably has a 30-year lifespan. If it's not submerged in water, it has only 15 years lifespan. If it's used for docks or areas that are in the water. And this piece is also in North Central Park. You won't see it unless you really look for it. It's on the underpass. It's the underpass under Central Park Boulevard at 51st Avenue. And this is by an artist by the name of David Franklin, who grew up in Golden and lives and works now in near Seattle. And these are painted aluminum profiles. And his notion was to evoke Colorado as in the sand dunes, but turn them upside down. And so this is a passageway in the park and it leads up to the school, Paul Sandoval campus of schools up in North Central Park at 56th and Central Park Boulevard. And there's a stream. This fence is a stream, and it too is a storm water management area. But it's quite a dramatic sight, and you can see it by going through one of the parks. And the kids keep it pretty clean. I'm impressed with that there isn't nearly as much trash as you might imagine in this environment. This is a more recent piece. The area in above 56th is very heavily built up, and there's long linear parks. And so this is called one of the pieces called Windgate Art Suite by an artist from Vermont by the name of Rodrigo Nava. And this is the first piece. This is called First Light. And these are 11 feet tall, and they are weathered steel or Corten, but they are expanded. He has developed a process. He's not unique in this way, but his process is to create what looked like, if you will, Horten pillowcases, and then he enlarges them using ether. And so there are several ways to do that, but he blows them apart and creates a volume in these shapes. And so there are 9 of these, and there are 5 of these, and these are the smaller shapes. And then there are 3 of these. And so they cover a long area. This was the largest commission at $300,000, but it also covers a very large area that's very open. And he brought an extra one in case some of the pieces didn't perform properly. And so we've placed this at the very top next to the edge of the Rocky Mountain National Wildlife Refuge. And so there's a lone piece in the North Park up at the very top. The next few are pieces that are at Central Park, and they were commissioned by the city and county of Denver in the public art department. And this is called Lamina Light by Stephen Appleton from Los Angeles. And it had a new process in that the large vertical tube that you see coming from the ceiling was concentrating sunlight from a device on the roof of the Sam Gary Library. And it reflected down into the library and was buffered by the textile clouds that you see attached to this on wooden, bent wooden arms. So that's in the library at Central Park. And here is a piece in the fire station in Central Park on Martin Luther King Boulevard. And it's a Denver piece. And as when the fire department builds new stations, they put together their own group of people for the art selection committee. And as you may have noticed, most of them like representational bronze sculptures. And this is called Tradition. And the dog represents the last Dalmatian to have ridden on a fire truck in Denver. And the artist is a retired fireman. And so that is his project that was chosen for this particular site. And this piece called Balloon Man Running is at Central Park Station at the commuter rail station. And it was done by Sean O'Malley from Colorado Springs. And so this is owned by RTD and is currently, if you have seen it, is currently in very deep need for maintenance and conservation. And unfortunately, that's getting to be kind of a problem with some of the RTD sculptures, but it's really perfect in this site. So it's going to be hard to replace it and expensive to replace it if that is what RTD decides to do. I was involved with it, but I have no say, and Park Creek has no say in what becomes of Balloon Man running. And so here is a map. Up here is North Park, where we saw the single expanded 410 piece. And here is Westerly Creek Park, where we saw the chorus. And this is the stormwater management also. And here, let's see, here is the pavilion that oversees this basin stormwater management. So one of the tricks, as I had said early on, was to figure out how to distribute the funds and the artwork throughout the entire development area. Originally, there had been some thought that there would be a second bond issue for north of I-70, which is bisecting there in about the middle. And there was not. So we learned about that, fortunately, soon enough that we were able to distribute the funds pretty broadly throughout the entire development and to place artwork in areas that were suitable for the public and for the greater plans for the development of Central Park. And I have here are the links, and I thank you, Helen, for putting the link in the invitation. Also, the two links for public art on the Denver 80203 website. And so the plan and images and brief descriptions of the artwork are found on these websites. And so thank you for touring with me. I would love to take walking tours, but as you can see, it's a fur piece. And Linda, you were saying, we talked about a walking tour, not like Seattle. It's quite a distance between artwork sites. So thank you for enjoying these artworks with me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Why don't you get off the PowerPoint so we can get back
Okay.
to the people? And you,
Okay. I'll put this up here. In case I have to refer to some. Oh, this is a piece that was installed in 2010, and it's glass and it's wonderful, and it didn't survive.
Oh,
that's
Yeah.
too bad.
Can you get out of this one also? So we just want to get back to our.
Yeah, just stop
Okay.
sharing. Just stop sharing, and then it'll
Yeah.
still be open on your computer, but
Okay. Got it. There you are.
okay. So there's one question in the chat from Barbara Stanton. She wants to know where she might purchase a public art map. Is that included in one of your?
It is available online, and you just download it and print it. There's no purchase necessary.
That's
So-
in that last slide you had, Dave
Yes,
link. Okay,
and it shows where each piece is, and there's the artist's name and the title of the artwork.
so Barbara, is there any more work going on to obtain more pieces, or what's the status right now?
Well, I've blown through the bond issue money, the 1% that was associated with the bond money. And there are no other pieces being purchased. At this point, Park Creek Metropolitan District, I am still under contract with them to handle maintenance and conservation. And so I arranged for that. There are a couple of other pieces that have been commissioned by private owners of spaces. There's a piece in North Stapleton associated with a business office there, and it's in front of the business office. So Park Creek Metropolitan isn't buying any, Park Creek Metropolitan District will have one more piece at Central Park Station. And it's going to be a large piece by Joe Ritchie, who is a local fabricator or artist and fabricator. But that's it. And actually, they are building the final homes. They are about ready to declare victory and move on, because Stapleton or Central Park will have been completed. And the original intent was 30,000, population of 30,000. And I don't have the latest population number, but I know that there are upwards of 7,000 homes there at Stapleton now.
Barbara, how many artists submitted? What was the pool?
Oh, the pool altogether, we offered this on the cafe website for each separate work. And some of the works or some of the competitions had 300 artists applying. And unfortunately, cafe is available worldwide because it's on the web. And that's a wonderful thing. And cafe is available worldwide. And that's a problem, because from time to time I would get applications from artists in Australia and Europe, and we didn't have the money to pay for the travel that entailed. So we confined our acceptances to artists in the United States, primarily Colorado. But we were getting 200, 300 applications for each one of these particular pieces. And because it's so available, there are a lot of artists who want their work seen, even if it isn't appropriate to the site. So we would routinely get about a dozen painters or photographers or printmakers or people who do fine crafts applying for these projects. And the RFQs were saying exterior sculptures, but that didn't seem to make enough difference.
Well, thank you. I can't tell you, Barbara, how interesting this was. It was really
Well,
wonderful. Thank you so much. And
Looks like Barbara Stanton has a question. She has a hand raised.
okay. Hi, Barbara.
Unmute yourself.
I that's not a hand, it was like clapping, because this has been awesome. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for doing this. It's like, wow, I'm going up to Central Park very soon.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, good. And yes, I do invite you to go up there get a map, and you can spend a good 2 hours just going from place to place just because it's such a widespread collection. And there's a challenge to give it, if you will, some sort of curatorial unity. And I don't know whether we have it because each piece is so suited to its location. And maybe that's the uniformity of it. But the people, I think the selection process has been enormously powerful in developing support and appreciation, if you will, of public art in general, and understanding what goes on, and that it's not a capricious decision by any means. And people have come to love their own artwork in their own neighborhood, and I love it all. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Barbara, we had a Zoom, it was during the pandemic, about the downtown outside art. And there are over, I don't know, there was a 6-week class, and then we took the good things from each class and showed the downtown. Barbara Thorngren
There's a lot.
was the woman, but you can walk around downtown and it's amazing. So.
And then some of those artists are downtown, particularly Wesley Heiss and Merrick. Can't think of Walsack. And they were the two who did the commission inside. That's the only inside piece of the thought balloons and Staplefield. And I know Denver has worked with them on the 14th Street sculptures too. So they come back. And
Well,
there are a lot.
Thank you. Any more questions? If not, we will end this presentation, and in about a week, it will be on our website. So I unfortunately started the recording a minute or two late, but it's before we got most of them, but you can see it again on our madaboutartdenver.com is our website. Thank you, Barbara.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it. Enjoy.
Thank
Hey.
you.
Barbara.
Thanks, Elaine.
Great seeing you.